web quiz time.
Yes. Get your phone or laptop out.
Right, who's heard of the window? Window?
Window.
Window object? Yep. Document. You heard of document? Cool. This one is also known as window or document. Yeah. You ready? Ready?
Not yet.
I'll give you a few seconds. Do the little dance. Getting ready dance. For your entertainment. Huh? All right. Starting the round.
Ooh.
Title. Window.
Dot window.
What?
What?
Is window on window, or is window on document? Or is document on window, or is document on document? Implementation?
Title. Does title belong to the window or document?
Ooh, is secure context? Well, the confidence it's fluctuating a lot, and
Navigator, everybody. Oh, no.
It's changing a lot as we go through. What else we got in here? WebKit is full screen. Sure. Has focus. That feels interesting.
Does window get a focus or document get a
few seconds. And low confidence. And I'm not surprised, because I don't think I know half of these either. Right. There's a lot of chattering in the room. Yeah. How to make yourself unpopular as an MC? Ask really horrible questions. OK. Title, document. Window is on window. Oh, I think we did this yesterday, because you can have window.
Yesterday.
And I will do that for hours. Probably not on request. Document, yes, because it's window.document, and then it's document.implementation. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Is secure context. Now, everybody's very...
split.
Well, they're split. They're unsure of that one. And I have no idea. Oh, it's on window.
Yeah.
Ah, OK. Interesting. So it's window.navigate. Yes, that makes sense. Yes, OK. Good. And device pixel ratio. I'm on the side of the people who said window, having written a lot of Canvas code. Yes. Has focuses on document, links. WebKit is full screen. It's on document.
Is it WebKit the window, though, not the document?
No, the window doesn't go full screen. The document does. That makes sense. Yes. OK. Oh, the web. Right.
Scroll.
50-50 on ScrollX.
I always get this wrong.
Really?
I always have to search MDN.
Maybe it's because I do terrible code, but I know it's on window. Yeah, window.getComputerStyle as well. And document.all, which is that a live node list? I think it might be a live node list. Honestly, I mean, window or document. Who doesn't ask themselves that every single day? Yeah. Everybody in this room. That's the answer to that question. Right, our next speaker.
Yes.
You've seen him quite a lot already.
I know, right?
But
again,
but he was. I want to be on stage. He said, first name the, last name Sommer. Ladies and gentlemen, Das Sommer.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it's me again. Prepare for more bugs. I'm trying to get the clicker working. But it's not. I'm going to use the spacebar for now. There we go. Oh, apparently my name is Sommer. Good. I'm kind of excited to be here, because we finally reached a point where, with Houdini, I can talk about actual APIs, because they're starting to land, and that's kind of really exciting. But as with any talk, I kind of have to start with what Houdini is, because on my Twitter I often see there's still confusion, because it turns out there's a software called Houdini, there is apparently a magician that was called Houdini. So I kind of want to clear up what Houdini really is about. So every browser has more or less 4 major stages in their rendering pipeline. It starts with styles, where the browser collects all the style sheets that are in the document and then figures out which element is affected by which of these styles. And now that we know the width, the height, and if it's flexbox or grid, which style is on which element, we can do layout. We can basically calculate how big an element is and align them on the page and get boxes on the page. They're still empty and transparent, because in the next stage, we can take that layout page and paint it, just draw it. And we can draw it all on the page. Sometimes elements get on their own piece of paper, which is called a layer. And once we're done painting, respecting things like background color and the text color and the border color, we can give all of that, all these pieces of paper to the compositor and kind of put them together into the page that you will see on your screen. And if something was on its own layer, we can move the pieces of paper around, and that's how animations are made. I mean, that's obviously kind of a shortcut, but you can kind of see where I'm coming from. So bringing it back to the question, what really is Houdini? Well, Houdini is a standards effort in the CSS working group in the W3C to expose hooks into these major stages of the layout phase to the developer, to you. So you have more control not only over the visuals, but to write better polyfills and have more control over how your page just appears to the user. It is hard because these 4 stages are different in every browser. Sometimes they're even parallel or not even that clearly separated. But we're working with all the browsers to make sure everybody can implement these APIs. Houdini can be super intimidating at first because under the Houdini umbrella, there's a lot of APIs, and you don't really immediately know what to do with what. But they actually kind of form a hierarchy. So you have 4 high-level APIs, 4 major APIs that basically represent those 4 major stages of the rendering pipeline. And then you have a couple of lower-level APIs that build the underpinning, the basis for Houdini, and that make these higher-level APIs possible in the first place. And specifically, worklets are really interesting. Worklets are kind of the Swiss Army knife within Houdini for performance. And so I want to make sure I take a second to explain these, because we're going to use them for the rest of the talk. And more importantly, I want to distinguish them from workers. Because lots of people confuse these two, and I can't blame them because they sound very similar. And in fact, they actually have a lot of overlap. But there is a couple of very important differences that I want to explain to you. And for that, we have to talk about the event loop. This is an event loop. And if you don't know much about the event loop, that's absolutely fine. Everything that you need to know, I will explain to you today. But if you want to know more, I really recommend watching Jake's talk about the event loop, which you can probably find on YouTube if you just type in his name and event loop. And actually, I'm using a lot of his visuals in this talk. So this is an event loop. It's a loop, and it processes events, and it's called an event loop. Whenever an event happens, the JavaScript engine checks if there's a handler for this event in your code base, and then takes the code for that handler and queues it up. And every turn, the event loop takes something out of the queue and runs it. And then in the next turn, it takes the next thing out of the queue and runs it. And that's obviously super simplified, and there's much more nuance to this entire thing, but that's kind of how an event loop works. And in this world, a worker would look like this. It's a completely separate event loop. It's an isolated scope. It has its own handlers, its own events, and they have nothing to do with each other. They might be able to put a task into the other loop's queue with post message, but that's pretty much it. And there is considerable cost to spinning up and maintaining an event loop, and that's why you can't just spin up 1,000 workers and call it a day, because that's actually quite costly. Worklets are different. They're also isolated JavaScript code, and with their own scope. But worklets don't have an event loop. Instead, they kind of attach to already existing event loops. And that makes them a lot cheaper to create and maintain. You can even attach multiple worklets to an already existing event loop. And because most worklets are specified to be stateless, we can even migrate them in the middle of their lifetime. So if it makes more sense for your code to run in sync with another event loop, we can just take it off and take it to the next event loop where it makes more sense. So this will come in really handy later on, but that's basically the big difference between those two. And now that we have worklets in our back pocket, we can finally talk about the very first Houdini API, which is for the Paint worklet. So as I said, I'm not going to go through these in order, by the way, more like in order of availability, if that makes sense. But for the Paint worklet, the API is called the CSS Paint API. And as I said, all elements have to be painted sooner or later to be able to appear on screen. And so far, you've been able to use CSS to customize how your elements appear on screen, but only with those ways that CSS exposes. So for example, if you want to do rounded corners, you can use border radius, and you get this, and it's kind of great. But it also turns out that there's different ways to make a box seem like it has rounded corners. And if you want to use any of these other ways, you're kind of screwed nowadays, because what do? So for example, there's a so-called squircle, which mathematically speaking is closer to a circle than a square, and it doesn't change curvature abruptly at all. So it has a kind of different aesthetic look, which could be kind of nice. So if you wanted to have this thing on the web today, what do? You can maybe do an SVG background image, which is not really a border. You could maybe use a canvas or a 9-slice image, I don't know. But with Houdini, you can actually teach CSS how to draw the exact look that you want to have on your page. So how does this work? Step 1 with all worklets is that you have to load a JavaScript file into the worklet that the browser gives to you. So in this case, we have the CSS namespace, and all the worklets that Houdini brings to the browser are going to be in the CSS namespace sooner or later. So in this case, it's called Paint Worklet, and every worklet has an add module call with which you can load a JavaScript file into that worklet. So let's take a look inside this file. In that file, we want to teach CSS how to paint something new with JavaScript. But first, it needs a name. So there is a register paint function, and it takes a class. And now we want to basically associate a name with that class. And every paint class, in this case I'm using myPaint, we need to define a paint call. And this paint call gets a context, which is almost identical to the canvas context that you're hopefully familiar with, a geometry object, which tells you how much width and height the element has that you're supposed to paint, and a properties object, which allows you to read the styles of the object that you're painting. So like background color, text color, font size, all these things are in there for you to read. And now what I'm doing here is basically I'm setting my fill style to hot pink and just draw the biggest possible circle in the middle of the element. Not very useful, but in the way useful for me to show you what is actually going on. So now that we have defined how to draw this appearance, how do we tell the browser to actually use this new appearance? So we do that in CSS. So in this case, I'm just setting a new style. And you can use paint worklets everywhere that CSS expects an image. So in this case, I'm setting the background image not to an URL, but to a paint, and use the name that I use in register paint in here. So here I use paint, myPaint. And this is actually, if it works, no? This is not good. I told you, prepare for more bugs. No, the entire laptop froze. No. OK, maybe it's coming back to life. I'm going to try something. I achieved something today. All right. I'm going to try and get out of here. What do you do in this kind of situation? All right, I might be able to remedy this. So just, I can see, maybe you can follow along. Hey, we're trying to kill this. Are you running Slack? All right, give me 2 seconds. We are hopefully back up in a couple of minutes. This is like good old supercharged with live debugging on stage. I'm really hoping that this was really just the browser having a hiccup more than anything else. I'm not sure this is going to work. I'm really sorry about this. That might be the only chance I have, honestly. Let's do this. Let's do a reboot.
So are you, do you want to jump the other one into the other screen? I can do it. We can
I mean, this entire thing is just not responsive, so it's not much I can do.
All right, so you just reopen. Great.
I have to. Now, you say just reopen. This thing is not responsive at all.
Oh,
So I'm actually going to do a reboot. What we could try, I have it in here as well, right?
It wouldn't open.
All right. Basically, give me a couple of minutes, OK? All right. We're doing it the hard way. I'm already thinking in my head which content I can cut to still stay in time. So oh, you know why I was lagging? Power was out. Apparently, it didn't charge, so my battery was empty. Great. This is exactly the kind of experience I was hoping to give you at a Chrome Dev Summit. Now, the thing is, I can't turn it back on because it's telling me my battery is empty. All right, we're almost there. Now, I'm going to make really sure that this power plug stays in. This is like a speed run. I always want to participate in a speed run, but not without me knowing it. It's booting up. You just can't see it yet, so we're getting there. I know. That is the point. Why should I walk there? I'm trying to set up my laptop. I'm setting up my laptop. You dance.
Please boot up faster.
Is it on? Just. Did you make sure it's charged?
It is
We're never
charging.
going to let you forget it. Never going to let you forget
I know.
this.
This is.
Oh, this is not how I expected this
It's
afternoon to
amazing.
go. With friends like these.
I mean,
Are you back up and running?
almost.
OK.
Keep going. Keep going.
Do you need moral support?
Do you ever dance to the music in your head?
Okay.
I do. I actually dance at my desk. Right?
You do, really do.
I do, because I don't sit down at my desk, because it helps my back to stand. But there's nothing quite like having your headphones on and coding and being like... Because everyone around you is like, what is he doing? You're like, yeah, I'm debugging. Just so you know, that's how it's done.
I was told there was a problem.
Can you dance?
Right. What's happening?
I
You wanna
mean,
know what's
this is
happening?
your framework, so you know.
Yeah, that's why I'm worried.
No,
My
it-
slide framework.
Your framework is actually doing quite well.
Oh, brilliant. That's all I care about. That's fine.
Is it up and running?
So my favorite,
good.
my favorite thing that's happened in the last couple of days in terms of things going wrong
Yes.
was when the big web quiz went wrong for you two yesterday, and the answers were coming up like sort of weird, right?
Yes.
Right. Because I was watching that backstage on the live stream.
OK.
But the live stream is about 30 seconds behind. So I was sat watching it, and the answers were coming up wrong, and you two were there going, "Oh no, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right." And then behind me a voice came and just said, like, "What's going on?" And I turned around, and it was you. And then I was looking on the screen, and it was you. And for one moment, I thought, "Oh, Paul's cloned himself. That seems natural. That's fine."
It is a good way.
Oh.
It is
Parallelize
really
the
weird
poll.
walking backstage and seeing yourself on live stream.
You're going, hey, look
Really
at that.
weird.
That's a really interesting question on Big
Yeah.
Web Quiz. I wonder how they'll answer it. Yeah. that's
So what did happen? I'm still like,
Is it running yet?
Almost.
Okay. What else?
is he recompiling the kernel?
What's good about this is because we have an amazing team backstage. The edit of this will just be like, boop, either that, or they'll cut to me dancing, and then it'll come back to you, and people
I
will
hope
be
that's,
like, I don't know what
that's
happened.
the edit we put up. That would be way more enjoyable than this.
So I have another story. So the prize that we printed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I ordered from online form, and I couldn't check out. And I was just like, why are you not like letting me select a credit card? There was JavaScript error.
Really?
Yeah. they were using Backbone.
Have we just dropped support for Backbone?
There's a follow-up to this.
Okay.
They had a 1-800, the toll-free number. So I called them. Hi, I cannot check out, and I really need this because I need to give out on Tuesday. This was like last Friday. And they were like, oh, that's no problem. We can give it to you. Please tell me your account numbers and all of that. And then there comes that visual.
Yes, because some might think that we didn't plan the content of that poster very well. When you look at it, it looks like it's been, just saying, maybe badly designed.
Yes.
Maybe.
But actually, it is exquisitely designed
Yeah.
to
We
be
had
awful.
Yes. That was our intent. So this lady, poor lady, was like, I'm seeing misspelling and outside of the bleeding area, which, are you sure you want to?
Hey! Well, you are welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, das Sommer.
You've got 7 minutes left.
We were roughly at the squircle. Welcome to the worst talk I've ever given. So I'm actually...
No!
What did you do?
What did you do?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Jake, that's your framework, so fix that.
This is Houdini. This has nothing to do with me.
Oh, just like the cake.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Wait.
Is that a good thing? No, it's moving. It's good. Okay, right. Oh no.
Ah!
Hey!
I don't trust
Is
it.
there any chance you could switch out to, say, videos?
I have a couple of videos. That's true.
So what actually happened? Did you restart and then Chrome updated?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because remember when we were in the office and I said, yeah, what you should do, right, if you were doing an experimental build, do a build of your own that doesn't update overnight.
I mean, what I could do...
I'm just saying I told you so, is basically it.
Yeah, that is precisely what he needs right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm going to try something. It's not going to be ideal, but hopefully it will do the trick.
Well, I mean, I'm on the edge of my metaphorical seat.
Yeah, this is good.
I mean, how much time do I still have to fill with this? So that nobody knows I actually didn't prepare a talk? I feel like at this point, I'm just going to re-record the talk and put it just out as a video.
Oh, that's great. What's your plan? I'm interested.
Stable Chrome.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Well, that's,
So the demos are not going to work.
I have most of them as videos in there.
Oh, that's good.
So that,
that seems like a good backup plan.
Oh, yeah.
You could have gone with that first time around, really.
I know, right?
I only have 5 minutes left, so that's good.
You're using my slide framework, right?
I am.
Enable experimental web platform features.
Oh, do I need that?
Yeah, man.
I mean, wow.
Wow,
Number of-
amazing.
The number of stories you get out of this
Amazing.
one, mate.
Yeah.
All right.
Never gonna let you forget it.
Everybody warned you for not to use Jake's framework.
My framework is not to blame here. It's fine.
I'm actually wondering if it's still the battery issue. Because it discharged because the power wasn't quite plugged in, and that.
Oh, that was what it was.
Yeah.
Your diary. Unexpected
Not my-
things
not
at
my
the
friend.
Chrome Dev Summit today.
Okay.
So what are we waiting on now?
The beach ball of death. I'm going to put it on screen so everybody can see it.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Hey.
I'm going to get my laptop in case we need to do a big web quiz question.
Okay.
That's fair.
I
Thinking.
have my phone. We can do it from here.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a big?
Do it.
We'll have it as a backup.
Yeah.
Don't know what. I just don't have my notes. You've noticed I've had my notes every time.
I know you look like you've got a clipboard.
I can't be
like
without my
You're going
notes.
to judge everybody.
Okay.
But
What questions have we got? What can we do that we've definitely checked the answers for?
all of them. Triggers layout.
I mean, the
We could-
CMS.
Oh, the CMS would be the next one. We've definitely checked that one.
we do CMS.
Yeah.
Well,
I think my laptop's a goner,
Switch
honestly.
over to
That's,
What?
my laptop is...
Gone.
Oh, mate.
Wait.
This is like the worst.
I told you.
That's the word of encouragement that Salma needs right now.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just...
I mean, at this point, the only thing I can legitimately do is like go out, try to fix it.
Should we do a quiz question? You've got until the end of that quiz question. Should we call it?
Yeah, put it on. I'll try.
All right.
Right.
Okay,
Can we switch to quiz?
Yeah. Hey, look at the quiz.
Hey!
Yeah, you're all on our side. Oh, imagine. Hey, look at that. It's CMSs.
Yeah.
CMS is known to have funny names.
They are. And actually, researching this round was, frankly, hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, not quite as hilarious as this. Anyway, let's start the round.
Well, should we introduce what the idea is? You're going to pick the ones which are real and which were fake, right? That's what you're going to do.
Yes.
And since like every developer in their career builds a CMS
Yes,
at some
that's
point
true.
and gives it a name, this is a really difficult round.
I like easy peasy content squeezy.
Yeah, that's probably one. Magnolia goes getting a high score.
Oh.
Excellent.
Far Cry.
Jake's
Oh, Jake's
CMS.
CMS.
You put that one in
Feeling
there.
content.
Oh, that's a good one.
Content. Okay.
Ultimate content managerizer.
Fiddly-wicky.
I think that's a wrestler.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Whoa.
we're done.
Oh, that was a
very,
quick round.
very confident about Magnolia.
All right.
Let's reveal some answers. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Ah. I'm really disappointed that easy peasy content squeezy is not a CMS.
You know what? Now that you say that, somebody is like publishing NPM module right now.
Brilliant. I will gladly use it if it's a good.
So hang on, Magnolia must be the popular one, right? Because I've not used this content management system in years. Is Magnolia a popular one? Is it a popular one?
I think so.
Is that why
I
everyone's
think it's a
got it?
well-known one.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
That would be why it got 92%.
Yeah, I assume so. Okay.
Okay. In the next batch, Jake CMS. Most people don't think you are a CMS, buddy.
Am I a CMS?
I don't know. Should we find out? I should press the button. Go on, I'll press the button then.
Go on then. Go on then.
Oh.
Hang on. Is the failure spreading?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there is a common factor.
Wait. Far Cry.
Far Cry is an actual CMS.
Does that, is
What
that
kind of content are we talking? Because like the Far Cry I'm familiar with is a different kind of content management system. You're basically managing people from being alive to dead, right? That's
or the name based on the person who developed it, because, you know, writing content management system is just like...
Is that right? Is there a joint history between the two?
It's
I don't think
hard.
so.
Okay,
I think,
fair enough.
I think it was
Fair
probably an homage.
All right. All right.
And then finally, Alchemy.
Ooh.
Tiddlywiki.
60% think it's real.
Do you know what? Do you know what I think of that 61% who think it's real? I think they're right.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Despite its name, I had a giggle about that one backstage. Tiddlywiki.
You too.
Oh, who would call it that? But Ultimate Content Managerizer, also like easy peasy content squeezy, not real. In fact, fake.
Someone get that NPM?
Was that one you made up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Surma.
How is it?
Dead Jim.
So
I
that-
feel like my laptop is legit broken now.
So you were saying to me, like, because at Google, every few years we're able to get a new laptop, and you were boasting, like, I've only got to get this laptop to last until April, and I get a new one. Yeah, you've got no laptop for a few months, mate. That's it.
Yeah, I'm without
Probably
a
for the
laptop now.
best.
Houdini broke my laptop.
So if you want to try Houdini, then flags in Chrome.
Aww.
I mean, I see the next speakers are already waiting, so we might as well.
I think
Might as
we
well go
should.
for
I
that.
think we'll call
Yeah.
this one
Okay.
our next speakers are Chris Wilson.
First of all,
Wait,
can
wait.
we give round of applause to Sarma, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of my worst talk failures have happened at Google events, and none of them have been that horrific.
But you know now,
That's,
if they ever happen, you can be like, but at least it was Surma's thing that happened. You know, there's always somebody worse off, and that someone is Surma.
oh, well, thank God that wasn't live streamed.
Right.
He'll be okay. He'll be okay.
Our next speakers are Chris Wilson and John Pellett. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris and John.
Thank you.
He discharged my laptop, and I just sent it to the edge.
What was that?
Stay away from my laptop, Surma.
Be experimental. You're already laughing.
Yeah.
That it would be experimental. And sometimes experiments fail. Surma's back. What we'd like to do is we'd like to give him a one shot at getting
Only
this.
one shot.
Just the one shot. Because what we're going to do is we're going to roll into the break a little bit. There'll still be a little bit of a break, and we'll pick it up and be back in as we plan to. But we're just going to give him one chance to finish up that talk, because it's amazing. Yeah. Houdini's amazing. And
so, I mean, you two don't know this, but just literally before we came on stage, I went to Surma and said, is it looking like it's going to be OK? And he said to me, no, we're having microphone issues now. I'm not joking.
No, I don't believe you are joking.
Is that getting better?
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, that sounds good.
I'm audible, so that's winning. All right, shall we?
Cool. Shall we?
Go.
Shall.
Yeah.
I know you're all behind him, but give him a massive round of applause. Ladies and gents, it's Surma.
So the squircle, right?
Yes.
As I was saying, what do you do if you want to draw a squircle? We're still on the same page, right? You totally know where I was going with this. All right, come on, let's do this. I've got 15 minutes. We load the squircle, we load the file, we had that, we had this one, we draw a circle in the middle, and I want to do the big reveal, where we use the paint function for the background image instead of just a normal SVG image. I'm going to press the button. We have a pink circle. I'm so happy. By the way, everyone, thank you so much for the kind messages on Twitter and your support here in the room. It could have been so much worse. Thank you very much. All right, what I'm doing here is, as I said, I set the background image on a text area. So this is a text area where I'm animating width and height. Don't do this at home, kids. Never animate width and height. But you can see the circle is pink and in the middle. So you might be asking, what is the advantage of using Houdini's Paint API, what this talk is about, over using a normal canvas? So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first one is auto-repaint, meaning that the browser can figure out when it actually needs to run your code to do these painting operations. I'm going to talk a bit about this more a little bit later in the talk. It is auto-sized. If you've ever worked with the HTML canvas, you know that the number of pixels on an HTML canvas is completely independent from the number of pixels the canvas has on the screen, which is super painful to work with. And in this case, you don't have to worry about it because it is automatically set to the correct size. It is off main thread, meaning the code that you write to do the paint operation doesn't run on the main thread. And that's a lie. Currently in Chrome, we do run it on the main thread. But as I said, the worklets can be migrated. So the second we have the infrastructure in place to run this kind of code somewhere else, it will just happen. And that means you don't use any of your main thread budget, making sure your page is buttery smooth. No DOM overhead. And this one is actually very underrated. Often I see effects on the web that use a couple of DOM elements or any kind of assembly of different styles to achieve a certain visual effect. With this, you're just using a virtual canvas, so not even one DOM element to achieve this effect. And that can really add up on low-end phones. So for example, this is one of the... No. No. Wait. This is actually not that bad. All right. We got this. We got this. This is just an aw snap. We can work around this. Is this full screen? Oh, I can look up here. All right. Sure. Why not? Hang on. We almost got this. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to move back. And we're going to go to here. All right? So this, I'm not giving up. For me, this just means I'm going to skip that slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out of full screen and moving this to a different slide. We're going to back into full screen. And we're going to go to this one. All right. Wow. All right. My point that I was trying to make was that we found that on low-end devices, implementing these kind of effects, like this wonderful effect that Una implemented, is actually more efficient in the Paint worklet than using a million DOM elements. So that's why this is actually a performance primitive to make your app run buttery smooth even on the low-end devices. So this is another effect that Una wrote that I think is really nice. And this is kind of a nice example to show how the browser can decide when to paint and when not to paint. So in the Paint class, you can declare your dependencies. You can say, these are the CSS properties that I rely on. And so the browser knows only when any of these properties change will the code have to run. Otherwise, it won't. And so in this case, you have a couple of custom properties saying, I want to have this number of stars, and this hue, and this different sizes kind of thing. And then in CSS, I just do a keyframe animation on the hue, and you end up with this effect. And it's actually efficient in the sense it doesn't run just a RAF every frame, but only repaints when the animation actually tells you it is necessary. This is another effect, a simple clock that many people might write with SVG or with a canvas. Some people would, again, probably bend over backwards and try to make this happen with a DOM and just a couple of DOM elements. But if you look closely, you can see that the hand actually has a trail. And that suddenly makes it a lot harder to do with SVG or with a DOM, and maybe Canvas would be more appropriate. The nice thing here is that you can have this module, a clock CSS Houdini module, and configure it with just a couple of custom properties. So you can animate the background color or the color of the hand, the thickness of the hand, the thickness of the circle at the end, or the length. You can show or not show the individual stops on the clock. You could do all of these things at once, but it gets really stressful to look at. So I wouldn't do that. But it's just a clock. And once again, this trail is just a CSS transition. So the browser knows, while the transition is going on, I need to repaint this every frame. But the second the trail is done, it stops repainting. So a really easy performance win. So far, we have been using CSS Paint for background images. And we have gotten pretty far, I think, if you still remember what I was talking about a couple of hours ago, it feels like. But you can use it anywhere with CSS expects an image. So for example, you could also use it for a mask image or a border image. So in the land of border image, you could make this kind of organic look, where the border looks kind of hand-drawn. And if you want that kind of look, CSS Paint makes it really easy to achieve that effect. This is probably very important progressive enhancement. You can detect support for Paint worklet in both JavaScript and in CSS. One note about the add syntax for add supports. It detects support for Paint worklet, not for one specific Paint worklet. So even if the name, like in this case something, doesn't actually exist as a Paint worklet, it will still get evaluated, which is kind of handy. For this talk, I want to introduce the 3 Pixability Index, which is supposed to be a little notion of how stable an API is based on the story of the 3 pigs and the wolf who tries to blow their house down. So in this case, in the CSS Paint API, the spec is a candidate recommendation, which is basically W3C speak for it's stable. It's shipped to stable in Chrome. Safari announced that they have it in development right now. And with that, I will call it brick stability. That at the bottom, by the way, is supposed to be a brick emoji, but the brick emoji just got standardized in June of this year, so none of the fonts have it yet, but luckily it still kind of looks like a brick. If you want to know more about this API, I'm going to shamelessly self-plug the article that I wrote, which you can find here. If you have any questions, hit me up anytime. And with that out the way, we finally have talked about the first Houdini API, and can go on to the next one and see if the browser will handle this. I just realized should I risk hiding the URL bar? I will do it. Good. The next one, compositing. As I said, the compositor main job is to do animations with the papers that move around. So as such, the animation is called the Animation Worklet API. So let's talk about that a bit. If you currently think about animations on the web, you have 3 choices. It's more like 2.5 choices. You have CSS transitions, which allow you to transition a CSS property from the current value to a new value. You have CSS keyframe animations, which are a declarative timeline API, which is more powerful and can do some kind of looping. And you have the Web Animations API, which is the imperative version that allows you to do like nested timelines and all kinds sorts of things. But the problem is that it's really badly supported. It's behind the flag in Safari. Chrome has an implementation, but it's missing a lot of features. Edge doesn't have it at all. So it really isn't usually a good choice. But even if it was, there are often scenarios where what Web Animations API offers is not enough. And this is where Animation Worklet API would come in. So what you see here is a normal Web Animations API animation. It would usually, Web Animations API is thought about in the .animate call. This is the same thing, just a little bit more elaborate. It's also part of the API. And a worklet animation is actually very, very similar. So for example, I would just use a worklet animation instead of an animation. And because we are associating this animation with a worklet, we need to once again provide a worklet name. Other than that, it stays the same. So we have a keyframe effect that we target an element with, and we have 2 keyframes that we want to use within 2 seconds. Then now we have an animation worklet on the CSS namespace and can call add module. And now within our animation file, we can use JavaScript. We have an animate callback where we get the current time and the effect of the animation. And now it's our job to set the local time of the effect, depending on the current time. If we do it like this, where we don't think about it, it's literally a pass-through, and it will behave just like a normal Web Animation API. But this is JavaScript, so you can basically implement arbitrarily complex time mappings. Now, what does this actually mean? I'm not going to go into all the details of this API, but just going to give you a little taste of it. So if you want to know more, I'm going to shamelessly self-plug another article I wrote, which you can find here. And again, read it and give me feedback. I would very much welcome that. But what do you use Animation Worklet for? So for example, I think a year ago or 2 years ago, Safari proposed the spring timing function. And it's implemented in Safari. I don't think any other browser has implemented it so far. But what do you do if you want to use it? Or what do you do if you have any other timing function that doesn't exist and you want to use it? This is where Animation Worklet would come in handy. So in this case, we can, for example, write a bounce animator. Because if you think about it, if you animate an element from A to B, you can either just move it from A to B, but you could also move it from A to B and a little bit back and a little bit less back, and it will look kind of like a bounce. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we have a constructor where we take some options. In this case, that's going to be an option for example, for bounciness, which makes sense. How bouncy is it supposed to look? And in the animate call, we're going to use this bounce function to, depending on the bounciness and the current time, we're going to determine where in between these 2 keyframes we want to end up. So the bounce function I implemented with some really dodgy and hand-wavy physics. But in the end, you can just think about it like implementing this kind of graph between 2 keyframes. So if we do that and we run that, you can see that it's now actually a bounce. And keep in mind that this is literally just 2 keyframes, and we're just spending time, so to speak. And this animation, because it's a worklet, runs off the main thread. It actually runs on the compositor thread, meaning that even if the main thread is super busy, it will make sure that this animation runs exactly at the device's frame rate, frame perfect, and make sure that your animations look really, really smooth. So far, we have done this. We have done an animation. But if you look at this, I explicitly wrote out document timeline, even though it's an optional argument. The point is that with Animation Worklet, you could get time from somewhere else, not just actual time. You could, for example, think of something like a scroll timeline. Or you could even conceive of something like an input timeline. We are talking about input timeline, but I have nothing to show here. But I can show you scroll timeline. So here you see a Pac-Man that I've linked to a scroller at the bottom. So what you see is I can basically scroll the scroller at the bottom, and the animation will jump to the position where I am within the scroller. And so it kind of gives it gives you an animation scrubber. And this is kind of fun, but not that useful. But you can conceive of more useful usages for this, called scroll-linked effects, where I have 3 independent animations. The follow button, my name, and my avatar are all scroll-linked effects that can assume their position within the animation depending on how far I scroll. The parallax effect would be another very popular choice to use with this, and it's much easier to implement than it currently is on the web. Now, in combination with CSS scroll snap points that we just implemented in Chrome, you can now have a lot of synergy here, where you have really smooth transitions between different sections of your app. And you see you have like an indicator in top, and the images kind of zoom into view. And now, for me, the really interesting thing is that Animation worklet is the same thing as the paint worklet was for rounded corners. If you don't like how scroll snap points work, animation worklet is low level enough to allow you to implement your own version. So it really future-proofs the web for whatever people will come up with in the future. Let's talk about the 3 Pixability Index for this API, which we have gone through many, many iterations on animation worklet, but always in collaboration with Apple, with Microsoft, and with Mozilla. And we are now at a point where we feel fairly confident that all the browsers are at least on board on a conceptual level with what we come up with. So all in all, I would give this a wood stability. As I said, we feel pretty confident about it, but now it's really time for us to see what you feel about it. So it is in Canary. You can play with it now. We're going to an origin trial in Chrome 71. So if you want to test it out in production, and we would love it if you do, please sign up here. As I said, the article should give you all the insight that you need to get started. And if not, please contact me. I'm very eager to help out so that we can get some real data on the benefits of animation worklets. I don't know how much time I have left at this point. I'm just going to go for it, because I can talk a little bit about Layout API. So the Layout API, I'm going to start with the 3 Pixability Index because it's complete straw. Like, we literally refactored this API 2 weeks ago at TPAC. So there is like a half-finished implementation in Canary, and you should play with it, but don't expect the code to still run next week. But there's so much potential in this app that I really want to give you like a little insight into this. So with the custom layout API, or the layout worklets, you can basically define your own display values. So I'm just going to have a main element and a couple of divs in there, and that's it. All the other magic will happen in the worklet. So now we have a layout worklet on the CSS namespace. I'm going to add the module. And in there, we have a layout callback. I'm not going to explain all the parameters because A, I don't understand them all, and B, layout is pretty complex. But I'm going to keep this one simple so we can get a feel for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop over all the children, all my child nodes that are on my custom layout element. I'm going to lay them out in empty space, basically asking how big would you be if you had no constraints. And then I'm just going to give them a random offset, basically giving them a random position within the rectangle that I occupy. And then I return this list to the browser saying, I did my layout, now please go forth and paint me. And that's exactly what the browser will do. So if you look at this, you can see a couple of rectangles. And every couple seconds, I add or remove a rectangle to force a relayout, and they get a truly random position, which is also truly useless. But you can see that this is the layout phase of the browser. This runs during the layout phase of the browser, something that was completely closed off to developers so far. And to give a little more of a useful example, I also implemented a Masonry layout. So here I'm just loading random images from Unsplash with different aspect ratios, and the Masonry algorithm, if you will, takes care of assembling these in 3 columns. And the number of columns is, once again, just the custom properties, which I can increase and will kind of scale up and give you this really nice Masonry look, which so far you would always have to do with position absolute magic and main thread JavaScript, and this is just actual layout, which I think is really exciting. If you're interested in the code, because I don't have an article for layout worklet yet, mostly because by the time I would be done with an article, it would be out of date again. Please go to this repository that I maintain, where I have samples for all the worklets I talked about today, and you can fork them and play around with them, or I would be so happy if you contributed to them. I kind of want to build a collection of off-the-shelf Houdini elements with popular effects, which I think could be really useful. If you want to keep up with the development of Houdini, I made ishoudiniredyyet.com, where you can see all the browsers, which Houdini APIs they support, which ones are in development, which ones they at least want to implement in time. There is links to the articles, to demos, to the specs. Hopefully, I can make this like the one-stop shop that you need to keep up with Houdini. And I can't believe that I made it to my last slide. So now,
Come and take a bow. I think you should come and take a bow. Come on.
I just gave my talk. They are the awesome ones who actually did not make me suffer.
Thank you to you as well.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Claps all around. Now, it's time for a break.
Yep.
Yes.
Is it still?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
No, you didn't completely take all the time. So we'll be back in here at 4:30,
4:30.
so go and have a break. I think we could all take a break. I need one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See you then.